It is knocked up in the air. A.J. Green makes the catch.
Oh, man!
A deflected ball winds up in the hands of A.J. Green as the clock hits 0. A 52-yard. 23-year-old Tony Pike waits for the snap, has the football, short drop, lobs one down the sideline for Binns. He's got it! Touchdown! Touchdown! Touchdown!
And a high fly ball way back in center field. It is out of here. A grand slam home run for Joey Votto. And this one belongs to the Reds.
Do you have your shirt on?
Last I checked, I did. Yes. Why?
Just curious.
Now a steal by Gary Clark and a breakaway to the rim for a thunderous tomahawk jam.
Get you one, big fella. Then a strike for Bertoni, and the magical moment belongs to Leonardo Bertoni. He opens the FC Cincinnati account with the goal in the 14th minute. Yeah, double dip on the ice cream cone.
Welcome back. And what a terrible weekend it was between COVID and the shootout and the Bengals and the Reds and COVID.
COVID one more time.
I mean, I think we covered it.
Did the bridge fall yet? Are we?
Huh?
I said, did the bridge fall yet? Is that terrible yet?
I don't want to ever drive across the Brent Spence ever again in my life. Never again. So welcome back to Pardon the Punctuation. We got Aaron, myself, we got Ed, and Jeff has been on with us on the round tables. Pardon the Punctuation is expanding a little bit. Jeff's going to be a regular, and Clay, if you've been listening to us for any amount of time, any stretch here, Clay is going to be coming in around Red season for his insight, coming in from Locked On Reds. So we're growing as a family, guys.
Another one.
So
Perfect. That's perfect.
So we thank you for listening to us talk. I still can't believe it's been like 3 years now that we've been doing this.
72 episodes.
That's wild. And 10,000 downloads, right? We hit 10,000.
10,023, something like that. Yep.
So thank you for the listens. Thanks for the downloads. We're just out here living a dream one day at a time. So we wanted to talk about what happened tonight with the college football playoff vote as Cincinnati drops. They're the only team in the top 7 that had any type of movement, and Cincinnati has dropped from 7 and now sits at 8. The team that dropped them was Iowa State, hailing from the Big 12, with 2 losses coming at the hands of University of Louisiana Lafayette, better known as the Ragin' Cajuns. That's their first loss of the season, and they also lost by 3 to Oklahoma State, who has lost their fair share of games as well. Guys, what are your initial thoughts on that mess?
Not only did they lose to Louisiana Lafayette, they got thumped. It was 31-14.
I'm going to try and offer the other side because I've been all over Twitter reading about it because I'm furious. But people are saying that they were down 35 players because of COVID in that game. And the college football season is supposed to be about what's going on right now and not what happened at the beginning of the season. Again, this is what I've read, not my actual beliefs.
Okay. Well, Ohio State, I don't think it's played in about 3 weeks. So how'd they get ranked?
In all fairness, neither have we.
Well, this will be 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
It's 3 weeks.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, but has anybody else?
For me, I think it's completely obvious, just in the sense that you have the College Football Playoff Committee making sure that with an inevitable matchup of Iowa State against Oklahoma, who's coming in at, I believe, number 11 in the Big 12 Conference Championship, they're going to make sure that Cincinnati stays on the outside, regardless of how that game goes down, and either Oklahoma or Iowa State will be in ahead of Cincinnati anyway, regardless of how this
teams.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. But apparently, if you're not a P5 team, it doesn't really matter what you did. Not at the beginning of the season, not now. None of it matters.
I mean, we've played more games in Ohio State. We've played more games than most of the people ranked in the top 4 right now, undefeated, and we get dropped. This is ridiculous.
I mean, Alabama's what, 9-0. Notre Dame's 10-0. I'm looking at the right rankings here. I am.
Yeah.
Clemson's
Notre
9-1.
Dame had COVID.
And Clemson dropped that game.
So Ohio State's really the only one in the top 10 that hasn't played at least 8 games. They're 5-0.
Yeah.
And who have they played? Indiana?
Penn State was ranked when they played them, but Penn State I think is like 2-5 now or something along those lines.
Okay.
Aaron's boy Dan Dotchick thinks that Indiana.
And I'm not going to sit here and argue and say that Ohio State is a bad football team because I really don't think they are. But I mean, you gotta. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. They were talking about it on College Football Playoff, and Kirk Herbstreit said at some point you have to put yourself in danger, right? I mean, you got to play some games.
That would mean playing outside of your conference, and nobody got to do that this year. But again,
I get that as well. But I mean, a lot of that comes back down to the Big Ten. So the Big Ten thing said we're gonna come out at the beginning of August, or when it was beginning of August, and we're gonna say we're just not gonna play until the spring. We're gonna try to push this back to the spring. We want to play. How about everybody does that? We're gonna make that decision now. Nobody's playing college football until February. And that's when we're going to start because that's when it's going to be safe, and that's when everybody's going to be on campus. Don't worry about that. But we're just not going to play football until the spring.
Look, I did the same thing.
Like, the Pac-12 said, "Yeah, sure, that sounds great."
Yeah,
and then the SEC was like, "Yeah, we're not going to play that game." And then the AAC was like, "Yeah, no, we're going to play." And everyone else decided they were going to play. And so now the Big Ten has put themselves in this like horrible position of like they have no room for error, and there's been a lot of error.
Mm-hmm. And
now they've got a team that's ranked 4th that might not even make it to their championship game.
I don't know what you do in that situation where if you don't have a championship game unless you move it to the day after Christmas.
The Big Ten better take their medicine and realize that, hey, you're going to have Indiana and Northwestern in your championship game if you don't figure something out this weekend.
It's the whole, like I said, the whole thing's a mess, and they've pretty much, the CFP has decided we're not letting you in to play with our toys. No thanks, Cincinnati.
Right. They're like, we let you climb a little too high. We need to knock you back down, and we're going to put Iowa State here at 7.
Ed, pull up what Justin said, Greg Berta said when asked about what more Cincinnati can do.
Oh, yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. So Justin Williams of The Athletic was on the conference call with the chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee. And I read what he said, and the quotes weren't good. It wasn't a good look. This is me filibustering.
Good job. Good job.
And I don't think Indiana's too bad, really. But now they've lost their quarterback, who I think had a lot to do with them being as good as they were.
I tried to put it on the screen, but apparently too many characters. So he said, asked about Iowa State moving to number 7 and Cincinnati dropping to 8. Gary Beretta, chair of the CFP selection committee, said the decision was more a result.
Beretta, that's a gun, dude.
He disrespected us. I'll disrespect him. A result of the committee being impressed by the way that Iowa has played in the recent weeks. Hashtag Bearcats.
Read that next tweet that Justin followed up with that.
Later asked what more Cincinnati could do at 8-0 to improve their ranking. What is it, Barta?
I think it's Barta.
Barta. Referenced the lack of top 25 wins and those by the programs ISU, Texas A&M, and is that Florida? Florida. I'm assuming he meant the current CFP top 25 teams are as the Bearcats have wins over previously ranked Army and SMU.
That's a mess.
Well, see, the thing is they like to move the goalposts,
Right.
So that they can say, "Hey, look," because then the argument is Ohio State has beat one ranked team, and you can't say, "Well, Penn State was ranked in the top 10 whenever they beat them."
Well, and the argument that I made on that is the reason they're not ranked anymore is because we beat them. How do you stay ranked if we beat you?
Right? I mean, what?
Great question.
I guess you beat somebody, then they move up, and then you're like, "Look at that! I beat that team."
And I see plenty of people out here like, well, you haven't played any of the P5. Well, no shit, we haven't played anybody in the P5. We're in a different conference, and nobody's playing anybody outside of your conference. So we had on the
except for props to BYU for driving across the country on 3 days' notice to take a game against a team that they didn't have to.
And Cincinnati was in talks for that same game if they didn't have COVID issues.
Right. Do you think for a second, right now, somebody call? I mean, probably because they need it to get into their championship game. But if, like, let's say for instance, let's roll the dice here and say Alabama calls up Ohio State and says, "Look, hey, we got a free weekend. You want to play?" No, they're not taking that game.
No, they're not. They're ducking that smoke all day.
But you know who they are going to end up playing this weekend? It's probably Maryland.
So, Aaron, I don't know if you caught on my Facebook
So
page.
what does that do?
You remember Kyle Hamrick, right?
Yeah.
He said, "How about OSU versus UC this weekend?"
A lot of people are saying that.
Yeah,
right.
But UC can't because of COVID, right?
Well, and Big Ten would have to change their rules to allow a team in the Big Ten to play somebody out of conference.
Yes.
I mean,
so they've been practicing since last Friday. I think I read that it was Tulsa's AD who called the AAC and said, "Hey, cancel this game because we're afraid of."
That was the first game.
That was the first game
in October.
All right.
The conference didn't feel like we had enough practice time to, after having quarantined for 13 days, to come back and play a game.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's
Ohio State's not taking that game though. They're not. There's no way they take that game because if they win, it doesn't do anything for them really. I mean, because either way they're going to get in because that's the way that the system's rigged. And if they lose that game, their season's
and here's the thing:
done.
Is like, I think that if you play a full season, if let's say the Big Ten wasn't scared of their own shadow and decided to play a full season, I think OSU still rightfully gets their way in. I think they do.
Of course, the Michigan fan thinks that OSU shouldn't be in.
Well, I'll also say like Michigan very well could have waited until like Saturday morning and been like, "Hey, sorry, we missed the bus." Like
it would have been a total Jim Harbaugh thing to do.
It would have been. It would have been just like he kept James Hudson from playing last year. But that's another topic for another time.
Yeah.
Do you think Harbaugh is going to try to go to the NFL? Because there's talks about him wanting to go back to the NFL. Do you think he's like, you know what, this is my last year. Let's stick it to OSU, and I'm going to the NFL next year. Do you think this is his?
I don't know.
The Bengals might take him.
I don't want to see that ever.
The Bengals might take him, actually.
He's just not a good coach.
No, he's not. Well, then there's also, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So
back to the Bearcats. I think that they're, like you said, they're getting full on screwed here. This is like the Montreal screw job all over again.
Well,
and that's a wrestling reference for those of you that don't get that.
Right, the Hitman.
Right, but they should have every chance to be able to. There's no way. There's literally no way from 8 that they jump into the CFP at this point. Not a shot.
Well, and people say that, schedule P5s. Well, we try to remember what the schedule looked like before COVID. We had Nebraska on the schedule. Not that I think would have changed anything at this point in the game, even if you beat a Nebraska. Next season, we have Notre Dame on the schedule, and we have Indiana on the schedule. So, as long as COVID doesn't try and mess with the scheduling for 2021, say we get completely hosed out of anything CFP related as it's looking, it sounds like we're going to have to just kind of grit and bear, play your NY6 game, and, maybe you beat Georgia or some team along that line.
I don't see looking at it here. I really don't see a pat. I mean, if Oklahoma, Iowa State are going to play for that, right? They're going to play. They got that game left. You're going to have Alabama, Florida. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just silly.
There's no path for us to get in. But again, if you win your NY6 game and you go into next season and you win against Notre Dame, you win against Indiana.
So they'll start us unranked. They'll start them unranked.
No, I think if you win that NY6 game and you got Desmond Ridder coming back, unless he jumps to the NFL, which I don't see happening, I think that you probably go into the season ranked.
Yeah.
Your buddy Chad over here is saying that Harbaugh comes to Cincinnati, he's going to fight him.
No, I think he's saying, I don't know who he wants to fight. He probably wants to fight a lot of people right now because he's probably catching a lot of smoke from a lot of people all day long, and he's tired of hearing from everybody.
We can make that
Thanks for listening.
Boxing match.
Thanks for listening, Dad. I appreciate it. Don't forget, you can catch me anytime you want. Writing journals, writing articles, podcasting for www.bearcatjournal.com.
Don't visit it after a basketball game.
The boards are a hot mess. I steered clear. So moving on to Bearcats basketball. I think pretty much it sounds like our playoff hopes are over before he's got to be with Harbaugh over the Hudson stuff.
We can make it a charity boxing match.
Oh, geez, yeah. I forgot about that.
So moving on to basketball, because again, I don't think we can do anything to get it. I think our playoff hopes are dashed before they even really took off, unfortunately. Thanks.
All right, let's do this now. If we're moving on to basketball, I'm going to go ahead and start on my bet so I can get this one out of the way. We made a bet last week. Go ahead. Aaron's gone. We made a bet last week with I made a bet. Aaron, you're gone, buddy. You're frozen. There you go. You're back. So I made a bet last week with Mike Berlin from Craft Root Sports. If UC lost, I would do 2 shots of Hypnotic, one at the beginning of the show, one at the end of the show. If UC won, he would do Jaeger. I found 2 airplane-sized bottles of Hypnotic at the local corner store, which I'm really excited about. So I'm going to start this one now. I don't have a shot glass. All I have is this glass from Beer Fest. So you guys go ahead and talk.
I'm so confused as to why you took Hypnotic and he was going to get Jaeger.
Apparently he doesn't like Jaeger. Oh, that was gross.
Probably why he's a Xavier fan.
All
right. Bearcat basketball.
He made a better bet than Ed did.
Aaron.
Come on, Aaron.
Better.
What happens when Aaron goes to the beach?
It's true.
Oh, you're back. Yeah.
Yep.
So I did. It's fruity.
Well, I think you're supposed to mix it with Hennessy.
Oh, that's what I was missing. Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, the Crosstown Shootout. What are our thoughts on the Crosstown Shootout? Obviously, it wasn't the turnout that we wanted. 77-69, although that score does not dictate how the game actually went. What are your thoughts?
Chad, you're right. My internet always does suck. It's like my calling card, really. Everybody's got to be somebody.
Yeah,
and that's
we need to fix that, buddy.
It's true.
he'll be back. He'll be back next week.
I'm gonna be honest. Like I was with my kids at a Christmas party, so I did a lot of watching on my phone. So I didn't really I didn't get to hear a lot of the
Commentary.
the commentary that was going on.
So you missed Dan Dockett.
Didn't really get a
Tragedy.
right. I probably won in that situation.
Yes.
But yeah, I saw a lot of the fallout afterwards that I want to talk about in a minute. So I'll let you discuss the game, and then some of the things I saw on Twitter that just struck me.
I think Aaron's internet sucks again.
Yeah, if I could get a screenshot of Aaron's face right now, it would be fantastic.
Well, you'll be able to get one. This will be on YouTube later on.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Love it.
There you
So, Ed, you go ahead since my internet's being choppy right now. What were your thoughts on the game? Also, if you want to get my initial thoughts on the game, check out BearcatJournal.com where I have another podcast.
I can't get these things up fast enough. I think initially, right, the game was we started off in the lead, right? I mean, it was back and forth. It was just we thought it was going to be a team that had played 5 games. It's a team that was on their second game, possibly third game. We don't know. Could have been a team they played up north. We don't know. But I was really hoping, just like the Lipscomb game, that we would at least be tied at half. And I think they were up by 2 at half, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Yes,
they were up by 2. I think we saw some. I mean, so obviously Keith Williams started off right. At one point, it was 6-5 Keith Williams. He started off great. I don't know where the wheels fell off. I mean, it just. Well, I guess it started falling off when we couldn't get anything from the big man.
Well, Chris Vogt had horrible rebounding. It was a horrible rebounding game for Chris Vogt. I think he ended up with 1 rebound as the tallest player out there. What you did see, though, was the David DeJulius coming out party.
Yes.
He is the guy, I think, right now, even more so than Keith Williams, that you want the ball in his hand as it's crunch time. He showed that he's a leader on the court. He showed that he was a leader off the court in how he approached the game, both going into the game, talking about how he knew how much the game meant, and also talking about after the game, how much he knew that the game meant, to him and his team. And he was almost in tears talking about the entire situation of it all.
Was in tears.
So, I don't know. David Julius, hats off to you, especially, it took him 2 games to kind of get his feet under him. First half of the game against Lipscomb, not great. Came on a little bit more in the second half against Lipscomb, and he just had a pretty good game all night. But yeah, it was David DeJulius.
It's come out party.
Yeah, you did have Keith Williams not hitting free throws at the line in crunch time. Nobody wants to see that. I'm sure Keith Williams doesn't want to see that. I don't know if the moment was too big for him as a leader. That's just something they got to figure out, is how to close out games, because you had a 6-point lead at one point with less than 10 minutes left in the second half, and you have to finish those games off.
But we've seen that before with, any Bearcat team. I'm not just saying a John Brennan Bearcat team, but we've seen that before. We feel comfortable until the last 6 minutes of the game, and all of a sudden something happens.
We all remember Nevada. We all remember how Nevada went.
Did you have to talk about that?
I mean, you bring it
I
up.
Fits in for the theme of the weekend.
Yeah, that's true. When we were up 6-5, I did ask to stop the count. I tweeted to Donald J. Trump that we stopped the count, but I guess it didn't work.
Well, he wasn't going to stop the count. He probably picked the wrong person to ask that.
It was 7-6 when you said that, Ed.
That's because Keith scored 7, not 6, which I tried to correct him on, but I don't know if my internet was bobbing in and out at that point.
What? Okay. What do we think about our big guys?
Well, one of the things I brought up on that other show that I do is one of the rotations that I hated seeing is Mamadou and Vogt out there at the same time. That was atrocious. I think you got to figure out how you're going to run these rotations, and maybe that means running small. Figuring out when to play Vogt and when you can't have Vogt in there. So whether that means running Rapp at the 5 and running small with Davenport at the 4 and some type of 3 guards at the 1, 2, 3 between DeJulius, Adams Woods, and Keith, or whoever else that you're throwing in there. But you can't be afraid to play small. I think you got to figure out how to get Tari Eason and Mikey Saunders some more minutes, one way or the other, as the two of them on the court at the same time. Is you got to see a flash of that. Saunders had a beautiful pass to Tari Eason for a finish. But I don't know. I know you're still trying to work in the freshmen as 7 new guys. And
cutting out, Aaron.
He's gone again.
Yep.
Going back to the
season. I don't know.
You don't know what you just said in the last 30 seconds that you were saying. But going back to the big guys, I did notice an interesting stat that I did not notice during the game. But when I was going back at Sports Reference, I was looking. Xavier had 0 offensive rebounds, and we had 16. How does that happen? And we lose.
Because we weren't capitalizing on those second opportunities. Those second chance buckets weren't falling. Same reason that you let Xavier go 13 of 13 in the paint, and we were missing bunnies.
Yeah. UC didn't seem to be playing the same type of, and I guess it's kind of a under Brandon kind of thing. The sweltering defense is not exactly there.
Well, we got spoiled. We got spoiled with the defense under Mick, 100%.
Well, you're right.
That was his focus.
You're right. Absolutely. Well, and Bill says free throws at the end need to be better. I literally can't think of a Bearcats team that has shot well from the free throw line.
Exactly.
No.
I think we go back to Bobby Brandon to get that.
Or definitely the Jordan era.
Yeah.
Can we get those uniforms back?
Well, UCLA is apparently. Well, they're getting Jordan Brand at least.
Of course they are.
I think Mick really did
Chip
hate
Kelly
us.
lined up that deal.
Chip Kelly did?
No, he's friends with the CEO at Nike from his days at Oregon.
That would make
That's
sense.
okay. Yeah.
It would make perfect sense.
What did you think of that arid technical? What did you think of that? Like, so basically, it was Ivan or whatever we're gonna call him.
Rap?
Did he make the hook and then just turned around? And it looked like he may have said something to him, but really, I think he was just going back to defense. And we throw in a technical.
Even Dockich didn't like that call.
No, Dockich didn't like any of those calls. Dockich also didn't like to call Chris by his real name, but
yeah, I don't know.
How was he even pronouncing it? I saw like several things where it said like
Voight. Like John Voight, the actor.
John.
Nice.
And then when people were correcting him, he went ahead and the guy with 30 followers wants to correct me. I mean, yeah.
Be better at your job, bro.
Better. Yeah, I have to be better at mine. You have to be better at yours. Aaron tells me that every day.
All the time.
All the time.
So, which Xavier player did you hate the most in this game?
I did. So you're probably going to think that I'm going to say whatever his name was, Scruggs.
Scruggs.
I thought Scruggs played a solid game. I don't think he played he didn't get cocky like normal Xavier players do. The guy who instantly, when he made a 3-pointer, Adam Kunkel, instantly, I as soon as he turned around, he just little There's nobody in the stands.
What did he do?
So Chad said he was playing air guitar during warm-ups.
Who is he, Lance Stevenson?
When he was hitting threes during warm-ups, where there's no one there. What are you doing? And he's just playing air guitar every time he hits a three, apparently.
That's a Lance Stevenson move, so thanks for recognizing greatness. But instantly, I didn't like him. I'm indifferent about Fremantle ever since game one of Xavier's season last year.
That's what I thought. Like.
Yeah, Fremantle. What didn't you like about Fremantle?
When he flexed, he had no tone whatsoever. Like, what are you flexing for, dude? Come on, man.
His vote does the same thing.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I choose not to pay attention to that. I don't love when he did it either. I didn't love the beard he's trying to rock. Vote, I'm talking about. But yeah, Fremantle just, what are you doing, man? Come on, get out of here.
A lot of the things I was reading, it seemed like Xavier was able to pretty much dribble drive into the lane and lay it up all game long. So like I said, I didn't get to watch a lot of it. So
there was a lot of breakdowns on the defense because you had Chris Vogt going to the top of the key and he wasn't able to switch out on the pick and rolls
with his heavy feet.
Yeah, he's got concrete feet. And frying pan hands, to be honest. But yeah, he wasn't able to really transition very well to get back under the key. And you don't have anybody like you had last season with Trey Scott, the season before with Gary Clark. Nobody to kind of pick up when you're just being clunky and can't get to where you need to get. And I wonder if you could maybe have that with Atari Eason, who seemed to move a little bit better. But he also... apparently, the stat that I was given, he's turning the ball over like 38% of the time that he's got possession of the ball. That's a terrible stat that you do not want to have.
It's not good.
No.
Can we talk about Tari Eason's mom and how awesome she is on Twitter?
What about one of the XU fans trying to simp on her, though?
She took a picture in front of the Oscar statue and said that she walked around all night looking for the Xavier statue. but they don't have one.
We're allowed to have her on the show.
I don't know, man.
I feel like there'd be some great one-liners that are dropped in that show.
I'm scared of his mom.
I also think they need to put her like down low on the camera side so we can actually see her reactions during the game. Because I would enjoy that. I would enjoy that very much so.
I love that one of the interactions I had on Twitter during the game was somebody saying, look at all that rich money people sitting there, basically talking about the sponsors and the people who had, gotten access to tickets. And I was like, yeah, I'm surprised they aren't upset with all the cardboard cutouts standing in front of them.
I think DeMar was there.
Was he?
I think he tweeted, it was maybe Instagram or Snapchat or something. But anyways, it looked like he was in the stadium. I thought Melvin was going to be there because he was hanging out around the statue. But if Melvin would have been there, he would have posted something.
I just want to make sure you understood the punchline of my joke where people who have the money don't like when people stand down in the lower bowl.
I got it.
All right, just want to make sure. Well,
yes.
Well, no one can hear that.
They could see it. Oh, good point. This is also an audio podcast.
It's largely an audio platform.
Did you see this? That Dan Dockage announced that he has COVID-19?
What?
He did the entire broadcast from his house.
He announced on Monday on his Indianapolis radio show that he has COVID.
Well, he did the whole game from his house, as did his co-host.
Now we all have COVID for watching the game, except for you. Congrats.
His pocket has COVID.
Yeah, sliding my phone in the You're at a Christmas party with your kids. Yeah, the Crosstown Shootout's on. Sorry.
Don't schedule that.
So we do have Furman coming up.
Well, let me ask you quick before we get to Furman. So there's a lot of talk on the internet about how John Brannon is they're basically not happy with him. They're not happy with the way he coached for the Crosstown Shootout and all that kind of stuff. Do you feel that this is a case of last year he had two great returns, right? He had Trey Scott and Cumberland, right? He had two great returns. He had also Williams, but do you feel like this is almost his rebuilding season? Like, you can't really judge him on this season. We had 2 games, possibly 2 games. Xavier had played 5 against 7 new players. Do you feel like we can't really judge his strength in the Crosstown Shootout off of this one game?
Well, first off, it's 2 games. But when you are kind of looking at it, I know football's a little bit different, but go back to Fickle's first year. Fickle's first year wasn't great until he got his guys in, and then you had to wait until his guys matured in the program. So you have 7 new players here this season, largely freshmen. And so, yeah, there's going to be some transition. Jaron is the guy who was bringing the ball up the court, running the plays. Most of them were, I'm going to try and run ISO, and we'll let the play break out after I, can or can't get to the hoop. And that's kind of how that went. So now with the team kind of transitioning to not being Jaron's team and, kind of being all these new kids, and again, a lot of them are freshmen, I'm giving it some leeway. I know people are talking about it's time for his job already. Get out of here. Like, no, man.
UC is ranked 1 spot ahead of Furman in the Ken Pom rankings.
Ken Pom. Yep. And Furman made 16 threes in their last game.
Oh, great. That means they're going to make double that.
They just got to figure out how to guard the 3 because Xavier was hitting them all day long, and they were wide open.
I mean,
Xavier,
that's all. That's the story against UC all the time, though.
Correct.
It always has been. There's one kid that nobody's ever heard of that will drop 10 threes in a game, and UC is going to have to come back on their end. I mean, it happens in all the big games. It always does. Against UConn, against Xavier.
Trayvon Blewett blew us up for, 40 points?
Something like that. How do you also feel about Mick Cronin sending a message to Travis Steele? It was a cameo?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it was fake? He had to say it?
I mean, can you turn those down?
Turn what down?
A cameo? Isn't that like a website that you get on that?
Maybe he's hurting for the money out there in UCLA, scared about losing that job.
Well, I mean, that could be the case as well.
So somebody,
but like when it comes down to it, like, I mean, are there some things to look at and be kind of concerned about coming out of this game? Probably.
100%.
But it's the second game of the season.
Exactly.
And
it's a team that played 5 games versus a team that played 2 games and hasn't put together
Here's
yet.
the thing: is when March rolls around, does the committee say, unless UC's like seriously on the bubble, does the committee look at this game from the beginning of December, the second game of the season, and say that it holds any weight?
Well, you got to think too. They're not playing but 5 out of conference games, and so you have this game against Xavier to try and make an impression. You also have a game against Tennessee coming up after Furman, and you have a game against Georgia coming up after Tennessee. Other than that, all you have is your conference, and in your conference,
so you handle your business in your conference, and you handle your conference tournament.
Except you have to remember you also have a 7th ranked national 7th ranked team in Houston.
Yeah.
Who had to shut everything down today because of COVID.
I'm not saying go out and lose every out of conference game and then hope that you can walk through your conference tournament, but you
just got to play. I mean, you got to win some of those games though. You can't just drop all of these out of conference trying to figure it out. So you have a 12th ranked Tennessee team coming up. After you get through Furman, you can't look past Furman knowing that A, you're both ranked about the same, and B, They apparently hit a ton of threes. And if you
Right.
fall back behind a bunch of threes, we don't have the 3-point shooting to catch back up on some threes.
No, you're a great point.
I say it all the time. Like, no matter who you are, I don't think you can really look past a team. But that that takes on a bigger notion in this game. You don't want to start 1-2 and then potentially 1-3.
Well, you can't lose a game against Furman. At least Xavier usually has some respect behind that name. Let's be honest. I'll say it. I have no issue saying that.
No?
Yeah,
And Tennessee, if you can sneak one out against a 12th ranked Tennessee, all of a sudden that loss against Xavier, that's one of the losses they're talking about that was a good loss at the end of the season, as opposed to just being an embarrassing loss against a Furman.
Yeah, I saw a lot of this stuff on Twitter about like using like UC needs to start playing where they use this game as a measuring stick and like all these kinds of things, and I just don't think they need. It's too early in the season, really, and like I wish that they would get back to where they were playing it at least in the middle of January, February. Like,
It's a whole different team, though.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you want this to be like, so it's a rivalry, whatever, and you got that going for it. But I think you need to push that game. That game should be pushed to January, February. I think it would have more impact on. I mean, think about it. If you've got a game at the beginning of the season between a couple ranked teams, yeah, it's fun, it's nice, right? But you're still learning who these teams are for the most part, right?
You also have to remember that you're negotiating with Xavier, who we clearly have seen how much they like to negotiate.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So, and I get that. I understand that it's not just like this cut and dry thing where you're like, hey, well, we're going to play the game in January, and that's when we're going to play it. You got to make it work for both teams as far as scheduling and conference stuff and whatever, when you have open time to play. I just think that if you've got two ranked teams at the beginning of the year, or even if you don't, if you got one of them that has, for whatever reason, managed to weasel their way into the number one spot, are those not like the more memorable games outside of like the Battle Royale in 2011?
Yeah, I mean,
right? I mean, otherwise you're like at the end of the year, it doesn't. Bye, Ed.
I'll be right back.
It to me, it's not one of those things where it's like, like I'll take it back to football and I realize they play less games, but like if Michigan has a terrible season all year and then they manage to pull one out against Ohio State, they can kind of sit back on and
hang their hat on that. Yeah,
right. I mean, even look at was it Northwestern last year? They play their big game at the end of the season, and they weren't having a great year, whatever, and they win that game. Was it against Illinois, maybe?
I don't.
Whatever. But it's that kind of thing. Like UC and Xavier, if UC like last year, like I'm going to say it, Xavier was not going to make the tournament last year. No shot. Sorry, but they're not going to hang their hat. Like if they got left out of March Madness, they weren't going to be like, well, we got this UC win at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and I'm with you. As far as like the rivalry goes, I want to see those rivalry games when it matters, when you're looking for the ratings boosts, when you're looking for, this team has these types of quality wins, not to be the early quality win or loss, if you will, at the beginning of the season as opposed to the end.
Like I'm a huge fan of this stuff, and I saw like, so it's similar to like BYU, Coastal Carolina, who not a rivalry whatsoever. But
no, but it made sense,
and they both put something on the line.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was great, and it was awesome. I have never once watched a Chanticleers football game, and I watched one the other day.
They've only been in existence for like a decade anyway, so you haven't missed a whole lot.
I went to college with a girl that was a cheerleader there, and then transferred away to Eastern Kentucky. So
cool.
Like I knew about Coastal Carolina, but that was it.
They made a tournament once, didn't they?
I've visited campus and watched a baseball game at Coastal Carolina, believe it or not.
That's why you're on Bearcat Journal and we're on this.
But no, I mean, so I've known about the school, but yeah, it's you know, they, to your point, they did put something on the line, and you know, you'd like to see that kind of thing going forward. You know, I've seen that on Twitter too. A lot of people are saying, you know, why are we making these contracts 5, 6, 7 years out?
Right.
It doesn't make sense when you
because everybody is. So if you want to get in on anything, you have to do it. And
well, because if you want a shot at Ohio State and you're Cincinnati, they're going to buy you out of that contract anyway if you're any good, because they want that smoke in a season where they're trying to play a cupcake team that's maybe a mid-major.
Like maybe when a team is trying to play like an Appalachian State or something like that, and then
that didn't really work out so well.
Then they take a fat L.
that didn't.
But
really
that's
work
why
out
they
so
do
well.
it, though. That's
Yeah,
why they do
100%.
it. You know, I mean, they schedule them that far out, and like somebody made this crazy like idea, like they should leave like the last week of the season in between conference championship games and like the end of your conference games or whatever, and just call it Challenge Week, and like, and
well, you know how you fix that though? You fix that by you could do that. It's called adding a week to the college football playoff and expanding it from 4 to 8.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, you know, that was like, I thought it was fantastic, and I would have, you know, I don't know that it really would have helped UC. I probably would have, because they didn't have a game. You know, would have added another game. Maybe Iowa State doesn't jump you, but unless you lose. But it was good to see two teams that just like decided that we're both undefeated. Let's go out on the football field and settle this instead of like sitting on forums and running
at the same time though. I mean, they're both way on the outside compared to Cincinnati, where we're at. You know, on the outside, we're like face to the glass on the outside looking in, whereas they were like, I think kind of behind the crowd, jumping
right.
Look.
And I know that I just jumped this straight back into football, but
yeah,
UC is in probably the worst spot, because you know they thought, you know, they were at least had hope dangled in front of them before. Now apparently, you know, the committee's like, well, there's really not much else they can do. They don't. We're not going to take the eye test on them and see what they've accomplished the entire season. You know, we're just going to go ahead and say no, knock you back just far enough that we can say we gave you a shot, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough. It's got me even more fired up. I wasn't this fired up about it before this started because I saw the wrong ranking and I thought that they were still 7. And then Aaron comes in and tells me, no, they're 8.
Burn the whole thing down.
Like I'm legitimately on fire.
Yeah. I was
start the podcast because he was getting fired up.
I was tweeting like Ed for an hour, just shooting out tweets from the pardon the punctuation.
Like
Twitter handle.
I left. I went and got groceries, and I check it out. I'm like, well, cool, 7. I thought maybe we would drop, but I'm good with 7. Come in, put groceries away, put my daughter to bed. Come down here, and Aaron's like, oh god, this sucks. I can't believe it. I can't wait to talk about CFP. Can't believe we dropped down to 8. And I'm like, yeah, you're an idiot. No, we didn't. I just saw.
Why do I sound like Ed Orgeron?
Real quick, when you got groceries, did you go into the store or did you click list?
Click list all day long.
That's the correct answer. All right.
In and out. It's been click list for like 2 years.
It's been amazing. I've driven 20 miles to do click list.
I feel so bad for you sometimes.
The only thing is, don't ever do like the deliver to your house thing. Like we did that one time. And
we did too.
The girl showed up, like my ice cream was melted, the milk was warm, like it looked like maybe she opened a couple bags of chips. Like I was like, yeah, we were missing some stuff. Now I'm not saying she took it because it could have, but like they shop for you, like they go around, so maybe she just missed it. I don't know.
Oh, we didn't do that one, but yeah, no, you're right.
It just didn't work out. I'll put it that way. That $10 coupon was not. Sorry. Yeah, I'll take the click list and the weird substitutions. Like last week when they gave me honey bunches of oats instead of honeycombs, and my kids were a little upset over like the healthy cereal and not that. But I realize this isn't sports talk either, so
it's okay though. That's all right. But and this is the last time we can talk about Kroger Click List, but they switched out my Boar's Head brand lunch meat with like Private Selection brand. Can we all agree that Boar's Head brand is the superior lunch meat?
Yes.
Thank you.
Even at Publix down here, where you get to get one of those fantastic Publix subs.
Oh, a pub sub,
dude.
a pub
Chronic.
sub.
It's so good.
It's ridiculous.
Kroger's. The sushi from Kroger's is amazing.
No one's talking about that. We're talking about Boar's Head,
But
and they put it on pub subs.
But we're talking about the pub sub from Publix. It is amazing.
It's so good.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I went and picked up one of those last week for sure.
Yeah.
Me and Grandpa ate well.
That's a good choice. Right after you did all
extra.
What?
Right after you did all that yard work cutting down the banana tree.
I did do that. Apparently, there's a pygmy rattlesnake in that grove of banana trees that I didn't know about.
Oh.
I didn't see them. We're good.
That could have been funny.
I upset a red ant hill also in another part of the yard. Florida is crazy. I also killed a palmetto bug. Those things. No, it was a cockroach the size of my pinky. Man,
that's safe, I'm sure.
No joke. Those things are crazy, and they fly. Get me out of here.
Not a good look.
All right. So, any other last thoughts on Xavier?
Yeah, one more last thought. When they play UConn this year, who are you rooting for? I'm on the side of UConn.
UConn?
Can we just go to like 4 overtimes?
I like Dan Hurley, and I'm also, our strength coach with there. So I wish him all the best of success.
Yeah, I don't feel that same way about any of those words.
All right.
If both teams could somehow lose, maybe it'll just get canceled because of COVID. Then we don't have to worry about who we're voting for.
Don't worry about it then. Just don't have to worry about it until 2022.
Not that I wish COVID on anybody. I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah.
It couldn't happen to 2 better teams.
It's a good look, Aaron.
It's fine.
All right.
Kroger sushi's $5 on Wednesdays. Good call, Jeff.
I think that's my dad.
Oh. Good call,
Another
Mr. Howe.
Jeff.
Hey, Dad.
All right, moving on.
Tomorrow's
Reds
Wednesday.
talk. Well, before we move on to the Reds, Furman coming up. I brought this up on the other show that I do, and I want to see what your guys' thoughts is on this. People asking me what I thought about Keith Williams and what he's shown so far this year, and I brought up.
Yeah.
Thanks. And I brought up just that he reminded me of Jacob Evans in that he is not necessarily the guy who wants the ball in his hands. He can make the shots, but he's not always the first to ask for the shots. And I don't know. I feel like even towards the end of that last Jacob Evans season, I still don't think we got to see the best of what Jacob Evans could have done had he been more vocal about asking for the ball or taking the shots as opposed to kicking it out. So what are your thoughts on that?
You remember the 3-pointer with 1 foot. I mean, that's a good point. I like your take on that.
I mean, like I said, I didn't see that game. I did hear a lot of rumblings afterwards about Keith Williams not, I'm in several text groups that amount to, they probably could be a podcast from what comes out of them, but there was a lot of complaining going on about him just not stepping up where he should be stepping up.
Again, we're kind of going back to where we've been spoiled, though. Like with Jaron. Jaron was very vocal. Give me the damn ball, right? And I will shoot all day long. So
I just think, I mean, maybe some of that comes out with the Julius maybe coming up and
Yep.
I think
getting in his face. Not, I hate to say getting in his face. Having some sort of team meeting here about this. Coming up like, look, you can take the ball, kind of thing. Hype man, as it were. But you know, you've got somebody like him that I think Bill was bringing it up, how much it was pretty obvious on the telecast that DeJulius is fully invested here, and it's not just kind of one of those things where he's like, oh, I need to transfer, and that looks like a good spot to land, and I'm just going to go there and play it out, and hopefully I get noticed there to go play in the NBA.
According to Dan Daychick, he only came to Cincinnati because he was going to get more playing time.
Dockage.
Do I call him Daychick?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I mean,
until he apologizes to Lucy the Bearcat and Cashmere Wright, I'll call him whatever I want.
I mean, I think it's one of those things. You're 2 games in, so I'll be interested to see how he plays tomorrow night. And then leading into the conference schedule.
Yep.
Which another 5 o'clock start tomorrow. We can stop that.
No, I'm all for the 5 o'clock game.
Does it really matter when you're not trying to fight traffic to get down to the game?
I mean,
I was all about the red starts in the middle of the afternoon, like the 6:30 or whatever it was.
Not having to stay up until like 10 or 11 on a long game.
I don't sign off of work until 5 o'clock, so oh well.
Sounds perfect.
I will.
Like, you don't have a TV at your house to turn on in the background,
Ed? You cook the kids food at 5 o'clock. You got to feed the dog at 5 o'clock. Like 5:30 is good.
Okay, 5:30. 5:30.
5:30 is a good time.
Yeah, you're warming up. You're warming up some chicken. You're warming up some chicken nugs and some macaroni and cheese. Get out of here, man.
Chicken nugs and cheese pizza. Get it right.
Okay, that sounds like a commercial break.
He's got the Uber Eats and DoorDash showing up, and what's that?
If I wasn't on this Weight Watchers diet, I wish, brother.
Your kids aren't.
I would Uber eat some Arby's, some Mott sticks, and maybe double.
I like how Ed says he would Uber eat some Arby's. Yeah, like every other week I see this like picture of something that he's putting his smoker out back. So now I'm convinced that maybe those aren't really from your smoker. You're just taking pictures off the internet and then retweeting them out.
That's actually a great point. I got this pork butt in the freezer. I gotta defrost and get on the smoker.
Mm-hmm. Go eat that butt. You're welcome.
All right.
You're welcome.
Oh no.
All right. Baseball. There's been a lot of movement this offseason. Trevor Bauer won himself a Cy Young. Tucker Barnhart won himself a Gold Glove. And so now all of a sudden, doesn't look like Trevor Bauer's coming back. We are shopping Sonny Gray. Kirk Casale has been non-tendered. Danny Farmer has been non-tendered.
Kyle Farmer?
Kyle Farmer. Yeah, Danny Farmer. He does music. That's a whole
but then they signed Kyle Farmer back to a 1 year contract.
They did bring him back? That's great.
I can't get a commercial with Blake Maisland and the Bengals.
Cool.
Yeah, it was like almost right after they
non-tendered.
They pretty much announced that they signed him back, which I think puts to bed the fact that they probably won't do that for Archie Bradley, which is a shame because I liked Archie Bradley.
That was going to be the next guy that I got to. We trade Raisel Iglesias.
Right.
I mean, he went from being a starter and opening to a closer. I mean,
how much were they going to owe?
We've
how much
cut,
were they going to owe Archie Bradley?
At this point, we've cut $20 million.
Well, I know the Raisel deal saved like $9 million.
Could that be a move to try to lure in Trevor?
How does that lure in? I mean, I don't see how that. Well, you just saying the money?
Money. You're trying to trying to get some money.
To be honest with you, I think Trevor Bauer cares more about winning than he does about money.
And he should.
He should.
I mean, like, so I don't know how much of it you guys watch. I know we talked numerous times throughout the season on our roundtables and whatnot, but I really got the feeling from watching a lot of his vlogs that he's done. Haven't really watched as many of his off-season ones because it kind of pains me to watch him because I'm pretty sure he's gone. It's a bad breakup, and
Well, yeah, because you
but
saw
get
what he
the-
did.
you
You
get
saw
this-
his reaction in the training room.
right.
He was
That's
every
not the
Reds
greatest-
fan.
That right there, he's sitting there and he's like, send it. He loves
No!
baseball. He just wants to win.
Oh my god.
Like honestly, okay, so money's gonna play some part in it, right?
Yeah.
Like he's not gonna take some little piggly deal. But
Even if you win one of those games, I think everything's different.
but I think that, but I think the other thing is, even let's say the Reds don't match whatever he's offered somewhere else, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they show, hey, look what we've done to improve the team to give us a chance to win.
With like a Didi, with starting the season off with Tyler Stevenson up here, with maybe
Right.
moving, maybe moving.
And maybe that's what the Casale move is about, is moving Stevenson up
Yeah,
behind
100%.
Barnhart. So like I'm good there. Like they're not going to go out and sign Real Muto. I don't even think that's a good that would be necessarily a good.
Well,
thing to do.
Philly's a mess right now anyway.
So right now to me, and I know we talked about this the other day, but like it just looks like they're in this state of I don't know what to do. We're gonna slash some payroll here. We're saying that we're looking for a big name shortstop, but are you really? Like,
Well, I hear they're in love with Didi, and
Okay.
I don't think Didi's a big name shortstop though. I'd much sooner see him make a move for a Trevor Story or a Corey Seager, something along that lines. Because I think you're going to end up overpaying on a 10-year deal for Lindor. Whoever ends up with Lindor,
I'm not a big
10-year
Not
deal
here.
guy.
for here. Why? But
No,
here's my
I'm
thing.
saying
Why-
I don't want Lindor.
Okay.
I don't want Lindor.
I don't either.
And why? And like for the Reds, why would you? I don't think that's something that you want to lock yourself into, because they've locked themselves into long term
With
big
Joey.
money deals before that have crippled them.
With Homer, with Joey, with
And as good as Joey's been, because a lot of people are
Griffey.
like Joey's not winning 1,000 MVPs. Like he's been pretty good, right? I mean, he has.
Yeah, he's been a leader.
And I'll say this: as far as I'm concerned, he's earned his money that they're paying him.
Oh yeah.
But
Yes.
it hurts them to not be. And I'm sure maybe they have gone to him, and maybe they've
For restructuring,
maybe they have, and
he's owed like
have
24,
moved
I
some-
think, over the next
move
3
some things around.
4 years.
And that's true too. But I mean, Bauer probably will play a Cy Young into even more money. And that's great. I mean, he's always going to be the Reds' first Cy Young. So, and I'll say this: wherever he lands, like I'll be a Bauer fan. Like I like the way he plays baseball.
For sure. And you
Yeah.
started at the beginning, like he sets himself up to win a World Series. The way he, and again, watching his vlogs and everything, what he does with his body after a game, before a game, like he is focused on a World Series. And if he's not going to win it here, then I agree. Go somewhere else. I mean, I'm not going to get mad at you for it. I might buy your jersey somewhere else. I don't know, but yeah.
Even with
I
that
mean,
little beer belly he's got,
does he have a beer belly?
he's got a little pooch.
A little one. I don't know that you get rid of Sonny Gray though if you're getting rid of Bauer.
That was my other thing, is like you're gonna try and jettison. Apparently, they are trying to jettison Sonny Gray. It seems to me that they've started to build up this whole like pitching mentality throughout. I mean, they overhauled the entire pitching mentality of the organization by bringing in Kyle Bodie. I think it's Bodie.
Yeah.
Or Body.
Bodie.
They brought him in. They bring in Driveline. They want to do all these advanced metrics and all these great crazy. I mean, clearly it works, right? I mean, they don't seem to have a shortage of pitchers that they're able to develop.
Hitting, on the other hand,
But you've got hitting is just. I mean, you've got to do the same thing with hitting that you've done with pitching. right? I mean, you've got this. You bring in Driveline, you bring in Kyle Bodie, you've got everything set up for success, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, we're probably not going to get Bauer back, and that is what it is.
Disco's gone.
You've got Sonny Gray, and Castillo. You've got to have a couple anchors. If you're not
unless you're already planning on bringing up a Lodolo or a Hunter Green,
right? But they're still unproven. They're prospects for a reason.
Yeah, they're not.
And
they're not ready.
Maybe they do turn into
Hunter's coming.
Maybe they turn into the next Cy Young for the Reds.
Hunter's coming off Tommy John. He's not coming up this year and pitching lights out. Just coming off Tommy John.
This would be what he threw a couple games last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
Basically
in Mason.
What amounted to some rehab starts of whatever. But those guys aren't going to replace what you're losing. And if you're going to compete, then you need to either if you send Sonny Gray away somewhere else, what you get back better make me believe that you're trying to improve the team. And it can't be. Let me read a couple names of some guys that the Reds put on minor league contracts today. Hold on a second. It went away. It's like it's not good. It's not something that's.
If you're trading Sonny Gray though,
Chesler Cuthbert, the Reds have signed, and Dwight Smith Jr. to minor league deals.
If you're trading Sonny Gray, at that point, do you just start to move like Castellanos? Do you start to move Moustakas? Do you start to move Suarez?
And that's what I'm saying. They're back in this like half in, half out world where they're like, well, maybe this time, like last year, we tried to really do it with the pitching, and that didn't work out. So this year, we're gonna really go in and try and score 100 runs every game, and it's not gonna work.
Because Suarez and Gray might have the best bang for your buck as far as their contracts go on this team right now.
100%.
Clay's guy, Matt Latos, is still sitting out there.
Man, I could be okay if I never heard that name or saw another picture of that dude again.
Oh, says this guy.
Bruh.
Unbelievable.
I'm still upset.
I mean, it's just where I'm at. It's where I'm at right now. Like, I mean, once you come out of December into January, maybe we'll have a little bit more feeling on what they're gonna do. I mean, when did the? Hold on a second. Let me. So when are they canceled? So they canceled the winter meetings, and they're doing them virtually. Yeah. Is that what I'm?
Which they probably should have been doing anyway.
Why not?
Come on. Anytime you're in some kind of industry where you can like get together to like hang
in
out.
Vegas or
right, we got to go there to talk about this. We can't do that over the phone.
It's like my office. We have meetings sometimes at the Holiday Inn down the street. I'm like, we could just have this in the conference room.
I'm surprised that, like, governors and things like that they didn't just follow through with it anyway, because they're immune to COVID.
That's a good point.
Okay, so the next big date's what, January 15th for arbitration figures and whatnot. But I mean, we'll know, like I said, by the middle of January probably.
If you follow
truly how this goes, and I'm quite worried. Last year I was rather optimistic. We had everything going in the right direction, it would seem, and I think over a full season last year, I don't think we're biting our nails going into the playoffs as much. I think we're probably pretty solidly in the playoffs over a full season.
But now it doesn't seem like anybody wants to win this division.
No, everybody's just like, oh, we're rebuilding or we're restructuring or we're looking at this, and like, I mean, the Pirates just are.
The Pirates.
And who
Enough
knows?
said.
Maybe they're but the Reds just seem like they're in this like zone again where it's like we're gonna jettison some good guys and some quality pieces, and we're gonna roll the dice and be like, hey, we're gonna go with what we got and hope that that's enough.
Well,
to get us to, because it's the whole. I mean, at least they're trying to make they want to try and make the playoffs. It would seem, unlike some other teams in the city that are content to not do that. But
Bengals.
Right. Oh God.
Sorry.
Bengals.
But if you want a good follow, if you want a good follow on Twitter about some of the up and comers in the minors for the Reds, Doug Gray at DougDirt24.
Yeah.
He says that he thinks that in the next several days that you're going to find out if the Reds are rebuilding or if they're for real.
Yep. I already follow him.
So, I know. Just for the masses.
But right. No, it's a very weird position of like things that happen. Like had they made that list of folks they non-tendered and then they brought back Kyle Farmer, which they did, and then maybe they brought back Archie Bradley and then sent Iglesias off. Like, I'm okay with that.
I love
if they did send Iglesias off and they come back and they use that money to sign somebody, and it's not like, oh, we can't spend any money because we don't have any money. Like, it's like if you don't have the money, if you own a sports team and you don't have the money to compete, why do you own a sports team?
I don't disagree at all.
I hate it. You own a sports team. They're there to win games. That's it. They're more profitable if they're winning, right? Maybe I'm wrong. I guess not, because the Bengals
merch. I would think you'd get more merch,
right? You would think
the playoffs.
Maybe the saying of having to spend money to make money makes sense.
Real.
I don't know.
They went to the playoffs.
Sports team.
SENSE or CENTS?
Huh?
Sense.
Either or.
Huh?
Come on, Aaron.
It's just like ballyhooed.
I mean, it just gets me. It just gets me fired up. Like if you're gonna go out on this I want to own the Reds, or I want to own this team, or I'm gonna do this. Like
they made $194 million profit over the last decade, not counting how much that team is worth since they bought it, which is worth over $1 billion on the regular market right now. And I know that that's an imaginary number until you actually sell it. However, if you're in the business just to make money, you've made your money. Sell the team.
Sell it.
And
right.
Yeah.
But who's going to buy the team? Who's going to buy? Who in Cincinnati is going to buy the team?
It's not about who's in Cincinnati. It's about who wants to buy a team.
Yeah.
That's fair, I guess.
Mark Cuban wanted to buy Chicago Cubs.
I was going to say,
you
could probably get Mark Cuban to buy the Reds,
and then he'd actually spend some money.
The name. I mean, the
history,
professional team, the history that's here. Like, you probably get Mark Cuban to be like, look who I own, and that dude prints money.
I'd be all in on Mark Cuban owning the Reds.
Mark Cuban owning the Reds, yeah. And for that reason, I'm in.
I don't know if they're buddies. They probably are, because they're both richer than with money they don't know what to do with. But he could just bring Elon Musk in, and they could. That guy doesn't know probably next to anything about sports, but they could have some cool lighting things and such. And money that they're willing to spend. The dude sends rocket ships into space.
We would send a rocket ship out from the pitcher's mound if he owned the team.
Oh, that would be
off the rails.
Right.
So cool.
It is really gone sideways here. I know we talked about maybe talking about the Bengals a little bit.
They're just bad.
It's a full on embarrassment. There was a, and I'm just gonna kind of wing it here, but I also where I was at, they had the football game on, so I was able to watch some of it. At the same
Sorry.
time right? I mean, that's what they picked, so that's what we watched. But I then saw a clip later that your boy Bobby Hart
Not my boy.
Not my boy.
standing up like this. It looked like Aaron. It looked like when we used to play flag football, and Ed would block for me, and I got my ankle broken. But so he stands up to block like this, and he's looking this way, and the guy literally just goes right by him.
So-
And he turns with his back to him.
I've seen the clip 100 times on Twitter this past few days, and Willie Anderson actually came out and said Bobby Hart didn't do anything wrong on that play. He was supposed to slide down to block a linebacker potentially, and I think he said the right guard was supposed to have slid over and picked that guy up. And Bobby Hart actually didn't do anything wrong. What I have a problem with more than anything on that play, though, is Bobby Hart after the guy gets by and the quarterback gets hit, and he's just moseying around.
Oh, I mean, you've got I don't, maybe one of you sent it. Somebody sent me a picture. So when the fight went down,
Yes.
the
They're all on the bench.
They're all sitting on the bench. Everybody else is fighting, or like at least up. Like, let me get out here.
And AJ Green.
I mean,
Was he the one all the way on the left?
I can't even.
Yeah, that's a far. I gotta figure out how to do
yeah.
that. Yeah, AJ Green on the 45-yard line. On the other 45-yard line.
Not anywhere near any of it.
Well, I mean, you don't want AJ Green really to be over there. Like
I don't want him to be a Bengal anymore, but
well, that's.
I mean,
I also don't want Zach Taylor to be a coach anymore. And then I'm going to call him Peni. I don't know how you actually pronounce his name. Peni Sewell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy from Oregon.
Yep.
Yeah, his brother's a linebacker there, and is also really good. But it's just it's sad. Like you watch this, and like the whole fight started over. Was it Michael Thomas?
Michael Thomas.
Like, so his first hit, the first hit that he made. I don't know if you saw a clip of it or not. I know you didn't watch it, but his first hit was like I was actually at my parents. Like at that point, I think I had made it back over to my parents' house to watch, and he had his head on the side, like
Not even looking, just
I mean, to the side of him,
Straight
hit him
down.
with his shoulder. There was nothing wrong with that hit. It was a good football hit.
you
Now,
just
his
can't,
second
you can't
one,
lead with the crown, though. That's what everybody was so upset about.
but he didn't lead with the crown. It was to the side, where I mean, it was off to the side. He didn't even make contact with his helmet. I'm not exactly like. I mean, maybe you can't do that at all either. I don't know. Like maybe
doesn't
from now
like
on, they
it.
just need to put flags on their hips and let them play that way, because like my 7-year-old seems to be able to figure that out. But they still run into each other pretty hard, and there's no like. Anyway, you've got that, and then the second hit was early, but I wouldn't say it was like a. I mean, wasn't an egregiously like malicious hit. Like,
At the end of the day, one of our coaches got punched by a player and was left on the field, going to tend to another player.
You've got dude, the Grant's laying on the ground.
Yeah.
He's the size of a toddler compared to the rest of these NFL guys.
He's 5'8",
and he's good. He's good. But he's small compared to the rest of
5'8".
them. So he's laying on the ground there. They're all kind of checking him out, whatever. And there's had to have been some words exchanged somewhere. I think Flores was upset probably that Thomas hadn't been thrown out of the game, and he comes across the field.
Because Boyd shouldn't have been thrown out of the game anyway to begin with, but that's a whole different story.
Well, even was it Howard? Is that his name? Xavier Howard?
Xavier
Howard. He shouldn't have been out of the game. That was, as far as I was concerned, so he bumps him a little bit when he's out of bounds. Like there wasn't really anything until they stood up. He did throw a punch. But
Boyd or Howard?
Both of them. I mean, they kind of it was like one of the,
It wasn't even a real punch. There, I don't even know there was closed fists.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't. It was like a
Yeah.
helmet.
Just get out of here. You're in my face.
I'm taking my
They're adults. They're adults. Anyway, I thought it was weak. It's the way of the NFL now. If somebody like looks at you sideways, they're gonna be like,
should have been offsetting penalties though, not a 15-yarder only on the Bengals.
right? Exactly. No, but it's the
Putting us out
Bengals,
of
so
field.
like back it on up. But it's just it's silliness. It's like like if I run into Ed and then Ed starts crying and they're like, "Oh, hit the shower. Sorry, like you can't do that here. Not in this league. We're not doing that."
Best player on the team.
It makes no sense. So you've got that happens earlier. You've got this fight that happens later, and clearly, and they're like, "Well, we're going to send this to New York, right? Because there's a flag on the play, so they can send it to New York." There was clear footage of, I believe it was 73 from Miami, hit like 4 Bengals and then stepped on one, and that dude doesn't get thrown out.
He got a fine though.
He did get fined.
He's not playing next week.
So he gets fun. Like everybody that came off the bench, I mean, like it's just dumb. It doesn't look good. None of the coaches have control of anybody on that team. Like
Sean Williams got suspended for next week for stepping on a Miami player, and I don't know if that was before or after.
That was earlier in the game.
So there was certainly some bad blood brewing.
There was weird stuff, and like I don't get it. It's the Dolphins and the Bengals. Like, I mean, you were both 0-7 last year to start with. Like, the Bengals have continued down, and the Dolphins have clearly not. I mean, they're
Fitzmagic.
They're playing well. Like,
Magic.
I mean, between him and Tua, like, I don't know.
My favorite was the reports on Twitter yesterday that a private jet had left Lunkin to go to California to pick up Colin Kaepernick.
Well,
we all know Mike Brown was emailing that guy a mega bus ticket if he was coming to Cincinnati. Like, he wasn't sending a private jet. There's no way.
I'm not sure there's even any truth to that, because I don't think you want to win it. I don't think you want to win another game. You want the number 3 pick in the draft to get P9 Sewell.
Well, if you pick up Colin Kaepernick, he has to sit for 2 weeks, doesn't he? Because the protocol.
Well, you got that, and you got the fact that he doesn't know the playbook at all. Like, I mean, you're just
also we'd have to cut one of our 2 kickers.
Okay, Bullock.
Hey, listen, don't you talk bad about Fat Randy.
Why do we have a second kicker on the roster?
Because we're the Bengals.
In case Fat Randy goes down.
Same reason you would never have a second kicker on your fantasy football team. You don't ever carry 2 kickers.
There's obviously a sniper inside that stadium.
But here's the other thing. Like, it doesn't matter who you have on the team. Like, they've won 4 games in 2 years. They don't look to probably win another one this year. They might not win another one next year. It is.
We might see a man on the
football. Who do you want them to interview for a head coach if you do fire?
I'm not even confident that Joe Burrow is going to be back. If I'm Joe Burrow and I just came back off of this injury, like, I'll be like, oh no, my knee's still a little bit. Unless you get me a whole new offensive line that essentially is going to have bunker shields and keep me from getting hit.
So do you fire Zach Taylor?
Absolutely 100%, and his entire staff.
Correct.
But they won't.
So if you fire Zach Taylor, who do you want them to interview?
You can bring back Marvin Lewis for all I care. I don't want anyone that's there on the sideline. They asked Zach Taylor if he wanted somebody else to call the offensive plays, and he said, "No, I'm pretty comfortable with the way things are going right now."
Yeah.
Well, that's telling, if nothing else is.
I asked him in that press conference if he's been fired yet.
Yeah,
I saw that. That was
staying on brand.
So I know if staying on brand, you would have spelled things incorrectly, and he wouldn't have even known it was English.
Like a podcast.
It was Aaron.
That wasn't Aaron.
That's been up there for at least 2 years. Bill Cowher, though, is apparently, according to. Wait a minute. What about Boomer?
No.
Does he want anything to do with it?
Has he coached?
Barry Larkin situation? Like, do we?
I think you need somebody who's coached before.
You need. I mean, if Bill Cowher would come here, like that would probably
He
be
won't.
good. Like, but I don't know why he would.
We didn't think what's his face Mickey Mouse horse shit football would come to Cincinnati, but he came for a year. Well, I can't think of his name. From
Do what?
the Steelers.
James Harrison?
Oh,
Yeah, Harrison. Thank you.
yeah.
That's a different. That's not a coach with a legacy.
Yeah, I mean, like, why? And that's the thing. Is like that's what you need. Is like,
He's not going to the Jets either for that very same reason. That's a coach with a legacy.
That's true.
and that's the thing is, but that's what you need. Is a coach like that to turn this mess around. And you,
Well, you had-
what you really need. What you really need is ownership that says
We want to win.
we don't know what we're doing. Let's hire some people that do. I mean, it's what you do to have success in anything. Is you go out and you say, you know what you're doing, you know what you're doing, you know what you're doing. Come here, I will give you what you need to use your knowledge to make us all successful. I'll look good because I brought you all in, but you are the guys that really run this thing.
I don't think we're gonna get that, unfortunately.
I don't think we're ever gonna get it.
And I don't
Honestly, and for all I care, the Bengals can leave Cincinnati.
Thank you.
I don't care. Leave.
Renew it. We can have monster truck rallies in there and concerts. I don't want to renew. They wanted
I'll
a concert.
I'll go down there and watch high school football all fall because those
I'll
kids
play-
all at least want to win.
I'll play an adult flag football league there on Monday
Maybe
night.
that's
All right. Time will tell. Time
Right.
will tell.
Time.
I mean, and this has been I mean, obviously a lot of our anger and such is boiling over as this has not exactly been a successful Cincinnati sports weekend
Year.
year.
It's great. That
There have been bright spots.
We
There
lost March. We lost March Madness.
I know
We got swept in baseball when that finally resumed after maybe the most exciting baseball season that's happened in years
super.
for everybody.
Oh,
Thanks for bringing that up again.
Gary Clark got bounced out of the NBA playoffs.
way to go, Nevada.
Shout out, by the way, to Jacob Evans for going to the New York Knicks. That sucks.
He went home. He's happy.
It's the worst franchise in NBA.
Oh man.
Anyway, the only thing we have to be excited about is this 8th ranked CFP.
And that
No, and then some goofball CFP guy has to go ahead and knock our guys down and then say, "Oh well, there's not really anything else they can do." Sorry, I don't know anything about football. What does that guy know about football?
That guy is the coach from Billy. What's the dang gone water boy?
He's not
It's
a
just,
coach.
I mean, it's like Aaron said. I mean, it's clearly a targeted, like, you know, we're gonna because here's the thing. I mean, and it's the reality of the situation is if any Power 5 football team, if it was Alabama or Ohio State or Notre Dame or any of these other teams, and they didn't have these games, but they were 8-0, and they had the same resume. If you put that resume in front of them and it was Clemson's resume, they're not dropping them a spot. They're not going to be like the Bearcats were earlier in the season when they won and then fell a spot. Like that those kinds of things just won't happen. And they're not going to get the respect ever that they deserve. And this is not a slight on Ohio State or a slight on any of the top 4 teams. I think that they all do probably belong up there. I think it's Ohio State's situation sucks for them just because the Big Ten put them in a bad spot. That's not necessarily their doing, but they need to eat it and own it. And because now they're not. I mean, they're going to change something up. They're going to play a game this weekend. They'll probably play Maryland. They're going to get to 6. They're going to get to the Big Ten championship. They're going to play Northwestern. Hopefully, Peyton Ramsey, elder fame, can stomp a mud hole in Ohio State. That would make me smile. but then they would just jump Northwestern into the top 4 and put UC at like 15. So I mean, oh, you just beat Tulsa.
Hey, good call, Bill. Good call.
We'll talk podcast.
All right. So as Ed is drinking his final hypnotic shot, and I think we're wrapping things up here. Don't forget, you can find us at PTP Cincy. What is it? At PTP Cincy Podcast on Twitter.
Yeah, something like that.
What's our WordPress URL?
ptcincy.wordpress.com.
I think you're going to start seeing a little bit more on there. Instagram, are you still doing things on the gram?
Forget about our Instagram page.
Cool.
Right now,
Bearcat Nation on the Facebook of the book face.
Go and order your
there's
merch.
been a big uptick of members joining Bearcat Nation.
A lot of
them
are,
need to be moderated out.
Some of them are not even real people.
I haven't been on Facebook in probably 2 months.
Okay, so that means that it's Ed that's quick to the approve button.
No, okay, all right, that's cool. Anyways, check out the merch store. It looks like you could still order and get things on standard shipping between the 14th and 22nd. So if you wanted to get something for Christmas. Also, don't forget to check out our sponsor, Boss Man Brands. I got a box right here, Boss Man Brands.
Beard jelly.
Well, Boss Man Brands beard care, man. They got the beard jelly. Again, this is the hammer that I've been using. It looks great. I mean, look at that. Look at that.
Look how much.
Thank you. Anyways, it has a little hint of lavender in it. They got all kinds of stuff in there. Go in there, follow the link on our webpage to help us out. And in return, use Ed15 in the promo code spot and get yourself 15% off. So, little Christmas gifts,
Okay. Well, next time we talk, I'll be in Ohio again, and that's depressing.
Hopefully your internet will be better, though.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great if your internet was better. Do you want to come pick up? Oh, we can talk about that later, too.
Okay.
All right.
Then, for Jeff and Ed, I'm Aaron. We out.
Peace.
See it.